I didn't know. All right, nice. I didn't know if that was the official handoff. All right, I'm excited to see so many folks. It is a Sunday, and you could be doing, you could be sleeping. I mean, you could be doing a lot of other regenerative things. So I really appreciate that y'all decided to spend this time once again together in community. Let me do a quick access check before I get too far along the way. If anybody has an access need that's currently not being met, can you put a sad face or a thumbs down in the chat? Okay. All right, let me see. Okay, caption is rocking and rolling though, right? For the folks who were just checking in about that, I have got mine on. Is that, let me just give a second for the person who's messaging. Okay. All right, cool. Seeing no other, thank you, Connie, for putting the link in the chat. So we don't need the link quite yet, but if you're like me, you kind of like to have your stuff pulled up ahead of time. So I'll give a moment for folks to just have those docs open in the background. But like I said, we don't need to be in them quite yet. Okay, so Sheila, do you want me to, I wasn't at the reading, so I don't really know about that.
We had some negative messages last night, Saleem, in the reading.
Okay.
Specifically when Walela was reading her poem, or their poem. Walela was reading their poem, and I just wanted to, make a space, if Walela would like it, to just have a couple of minutes, just to open if people need to have a conversation about that, because I'm struck that, we're a pretty small group. We didn't have a huge audience, and we still weren't perfectly safe. So I don't know, that was, so I'm just wanting to open that space in case, people want to talk or have some reflection they want to make.
You mind me asking super quickly, just for context, was the comments coming from within our fellows group or from the extended community?
Oh, outside an audience.
Okay, just wanted to check. So I was like, that's kind of a different conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Not cool, but yeah, Walela, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like Sheila said, there's space for this for sure.
I mean, I appreciate it. I think we talked about it at the time that it happened. I know not everyone was there, but I just think if anything, it kind of just reinforced the whole unfortunate concept that there isn't a safe space even when we try to facilitate it. And that was the most disorienting thing for me. And I'm sure for everyone else that was disorienting too, to know that is a possibility. And so I had just said to Sheila this morning, and thank you to everybody who checked in on me. I really appreciated that, by the way, just everyone's been so loving in general. But the concept of security culture, which is really big in organizing, which is to how do we secure a space to make sure it's safe, and generally community guidelines in the beginning and stuff. But I don't want to take up too much time because I think we've had enough. I just feel like if anyone else wants to share, then sure, about how that made them feel. I would love to give the floor to them, but I'm good. So.
Not being there, one thing that I will say, first of all, is even though I wasn't there, I immediately felt the second that Sheila sent a DM saying that there was a less than supportive environment, my heart immediately sank, even though I wasn't there. So in that way, I feel like I was there. And just really sorry once again that in our particular moment of safety that for a second was infringed. I definitely want to also look at the feedback, Walela, in the sense that we had talked about having some community agreements in the beginning of our opening, and I had set aside workshop time, but I did not anticipate none of us anticipated the half an hour of our tech issues. And so unfortunately, I kind of at the last minute made the choice to focus more on everyone getting an extended intro rather than the community agreements. And so that's a really good reminder for us as a team that it's not something we can just, just sort of kick down the road to a later time, because it is really crucial and at the heart of having these brave spaces. So I appreciate that. I'll take that to heart for sure. What if we start kind of on, and we just sort of honestly use this into transition, and because I think it is a very relevant space to transition into for this generative time together. How does that sound for folks? Okay, awesome. So I'll give you an overview because it is I'm a tiny bit disoriented. I have a vestibular disorder, and so movement is very challenging for me. And so driving Friday, 6 hours to Louisville to stay in a hotel, to wake up, to go to a graduation, to get back in a car, to drive 6 hours back in the dark, to wake up 5 hours later to get kids ready for a ballet performance. Like, my body takes a while in space to catch up. And so often when I get out of the car on the highway, it's like 2-3 hours before my body doesn't feel like it's moving. So like, this is also, good for me to sort of like in this moment, sort of settle, but also to give a little bit of a roadmap for sort of what we have ahead in our time together. So as you probably saw from the title of this sort of generative session, the word Sankofa was in there. So that is going to be a concept that we're going to come back to throughout our discussion. We'll talk about that. I'm going to share an unpublished piece, and then we are going to have some brief reflections on it through this lens of Sankofa that we would have talked about. I'm going to introduce an empowering, joy-filled tool for workshopping that Camille Dungy developed. That's just a gift, as long as we're obviously appropriately citing, that I would want to share with folks. And then we're going to think a little bit about the second half of our time together. We're going to loop back to the concept of Sankofa, and we're going to go through a series of 3 15-minute free writes. And so with the free writes, if folks have ever done a free write, really the goal is just to generate. And if you get stuck, then my general rule of thumb is to just write the same line, my last line, to just write that line over and over and over till you get to the next place. All right. So if you're stuck and you're like, stuck in the roots, but it didn't get the shoots, like whatever, like it might open up something else, of just saying it over and over. So that's going to be something we'll hold in mind when we get into our second half with our Sankofa. And I think it's going to be cool because each of the 15-minute free writes we're going to have, I'm going to give us a slightly different opportunity. I'm not going to say challenge, but a slightly different opportunity to look at each one. And then we're going to wrap up with a little conversation about sort of, is there anything that our particular community, through a lens of disability justice, what is there a disability informed Sankofa, right? Are there particular pieces of this concept that perhaps only folks like us in these bodies with this worldview, with this amazingly more nuanced and complicated understanding of bodies and space and time could potentially offer to this traditional concepts? And so that's kind of what our overview is: some reading, some chatting, some writing, and then a little bit of reflection. So everyone's sounding good with that, and then that'll be our overflow. Hopefully not overflow. We'll overflow with joy. Yeah, sure. That'll be our overflow. All right, cool. So I sent out a little instruction page, which you don't need yet, but I did mention on the bottom half of it, it said ground rules from two activists who I like, 2 writers, Joy Sawyer and Karen Miriam Goldberg. They teach a workshop called The Art of Facilitation. And so they have kind of like 13 little points that they I thought were very useful and hopefully very affirmative. It's just on the back of that 50-bird instruction sheet. I'm not going to read through them all, but I do think kind of the key ones. One is that we're not going to have to share out any of the things that we generate in those 3 free writes. I feel like we have a safe enough space that we could, you know. I just feel like I want to just use the time for y'all to really get to write and kind of if we can get in 3 writing sessions instead of maybe 1 with sharebacks, I'd kind of rather us be able to get in 3. But that's just a general set of framings. You know, a lot of them are things that I think we already understand, but I think it's just important to know that that set of ground rules is there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, get a little screen share popping, and get into this. I'm excited. All right, can y'all see my screen? I'll make it bigger. So what you're looking at right now is just because I just still love how much Travis, by having their keynote written ahead of time, people are able to follow. And so I'm not used to doing that because often when I talk, just coming out of improv theater, I often think of the thing and then I say it in the moment. So I did want to put this on here. So this is kind of a couple lines that I'm going to say from a lyric essay that I'm writing for Gravy Magazine. Yeah, met with the editor last week. So it says new title needed because that's what happens when you work with editors. So it does not have a title yet. I'll do that tonight. All right. I left the South for the Mid-Atlantic, then the Rust Belt and the up South Midwest to pursue higher education, to tic-tac-toe my way through undervalued professions. Like a sea island ring shout, I've made this counterclockwise journey seasonally, oft resisting the way the tide pulls me. Every 2 years, silt seasons, tears clear my identity, swirled shades of Chalcedony. Body, a daffodil bulb pushing up through a winter of caked up Chicago sidewalk salt runoff. Heart, a pair of gift shop flip-flops mired in low country pluff mud. Soul, an exhausted Jesus bug finally catching an eddy in an Appalachian river. Spirit, that swollen can of rusty minestrone soup wedged inside the ceiling fixture of a gutted house in New Orleans East. My trajectory is undoubtedly informed by chronic illness, invisible disabilities, e.g. bipolar 2, type 2 diabetes, and quote, not immediately visible disabilities, e.g. Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, single-sided deafness. Is it any surprise that each time I look back home, I learn another lesson in chronic resilience? Sankofa, a Twi word from the Akan tribe in Ghana, is derived from the words san, return, ko, go, fa, look, seek, take. Simply translated, Sankofa means go back and get it. So if you're interested, you could write just that in whatever space if you're doing this by hand or a blank window. If you could write the go back and get it, simple translation, because we'll refer back to that. All right. So I'm going to share this piece that was in the chat, but I'm also going to pull it up on the screen for folks if that's easier than going to your own Google Drive. All right. But I can't read things while they're scrolling, so I'm going to read off a piece of paper. All right. Hashtag Black Pole Summer. Let me think for a second if I have any content warnings in this piece. I have mentions of some anti-Black violence. However, there are no visual descriptions of any particular scenes. There's references, but no specific imagery. Because I'm tired of seeing Black suffering in public. All right. Hashtag Black Pole Summer. For Christian Cooper with scattered droppings from Mary Oliver's wild geese. Then I'm taking a picture and calling the cops. Her Cocker Spaniel, Henry, and me roll our eyes. Fam, your girl's all the way off the chain. I know, yeah, I know. But ayo, for real, today is the last day. She jerks my damn collar. And the hermit thrushes who showed up early for the termite hatch out, who saved all spring for this honeymoon, they ain't having it either. Relax, babe. Your new eye-ring shade is going to make me molt. Should we? The Chirper and Flockbook Review said the ramble is so intimate, a migration must stop. But babe, these termites right here, honey, I know, wildest in the park. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. Break. Her trigger finger hovers, semi-automatically harsh and exciting. thrusting the action cylinder barrel muzzle phone deliberately at me. 9 glabella glistens, 1 philtrum pulses, 1 primer sweatpants 9, powder gray hoodie 1, casing scooped neckline 1, bullet black t-shirt. Break. They're not even on the path, for flock's sake. I can't breathe with all their obliviousness. Just imagine you do not have to be good. Ugh, sapiens stay out of place in the family of things. In a wedge, 2 wild geese at odds, split the V, innocuous versus emergency. I don't know that as a woman alone in a park, I had another option. Survival is mostly crass schematics, smirks Henry, side-eyeing me. Whoever you are, my dog knows his etymology, as in late Latin Henricus, as in Old High German Heinrich, from Heim, meaning home, as in make oneself at home, meaning become comfortable in a place one does not live, as in home field advantage, meaning no matter how lonely, there is always some black beneath you. Tell me, break, about despair. 3 churches, 3 cemeteries, 2 schools, buried here. A kestrel mourning his crew moves still on broke wings high in the clean blue. His killy, killy, killy call moving across the landscapes. East 79th Street to Madison Ave, the East 135th over the prairies, Grand Central to Astoria and the Triborough Bridge, and 74th Street and the deep waters of Rikers, where hungry raptors hustle and mean mother falcons perch. Break. Henry knows where not to pee. Ancestral memories, chafed branches, cracked limbs, night riders whoop, weave white streaks, desecrate the trees. I'm sorry, I forgot about this section. So this is a content warning. I do describe some anti-Black violence here, so I apologize. I'll put my hand up when I'm starting that section. I'll put my hand back down when I'm done with this section. Rope runs short. Sometimes they force the soft animal to choose knife, hammer, spoon, pick apart to be removed, tongue or the mountains, testicles or the rivers, eyeballs, the clear pebbles. The world offers itself to your imagination. The understory shrubbery summons the Lenape spirits and ring-shouting ghosts of Seneca Village. Quilt us, quick, they need no license to empty their clips. 3 rounds dismissive, crack. 4 rounds belligerent, sweat. 4 rounds unruliness, tact. 5 rounds extrajudicial, cat. Multisyllabic, middle-class thug shit. Girls' night out, bedazzling pistol grips. Yes, yas. Like namaste, like lean in, like brunch, like slay these kale crisps. Meanwhile, crack open a cold, bland, BPA-free can of weaponized whiteness. Pour it on the fire. Once the gas is lit, the world goes on. Break. I am in Central Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog. Please bear with us. The powder rollers are busy escalating another scene. Obviously, she had not X'd out this date on her calendar, or canceled every meeting, or scheduled a sick day or 2. Obviously, she had not bought a half-gallon ice cream or 2, or accidentally finished the double chocolate dip cookies, double-fisted crushed crumbage, the saccharin, the salt licks, and vinegar chips. Concessions to keep her awake if, no, when the verdict hits in a bit. Dear Mr. Floyd, did you know we bouqueted in Powderhorn Park to wake you early? I'm sorry, do you know we buku'd in Powderhorn Park to wake you early? Sleepy-eyed Antron, the yellow-bellied flycatcher, shuffling behind Raymond, the Wilshires warbler, and Miss Sophia Vernay, the Cape May, still holding on to the oldest box on the block, already pestering Yusef, the willow flycatcher, to get right with God. Quit imitating Kevin, that slick Philadelphia vireo, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing, cheerio wit, cheery, sissawee, tio, cheerio wit. It worked. Ain't that some flit? The chestnut-sided warblers, bougie and blessed, highly favor him. In stark contrast, limp-beaked, stiff-necked Corey, the newly widowed Blackpoll warbler, hobbled in, wings heeled, back crooked, he's waiting, letting the stained glass shards burrow in. She'll glisten in my bones, cross the ocean again. Break. Brother George, we kept a brush fire burning all summer for you. Do not have to fly or blossom or lift our guilt or be good. And if I took a knee beneath the sweet gum tree, endured the prickly seeds like generations before me. Might your vertebrae still be aligned, your spine in peace? Gianna told the world, my daddy always used to help me brush my teeth. Shelter took Henry to confirm his safety. My guy returned refreshed with a brand new leash. I went to play with him, have fun, go on a plane ride for 100 miles together. Thermals uprise, hallowed be our haliXes. When the verdict landed, we clapped back. Deuces up, demands dropped. The aviary abolished, the banded free. Turn up the termites for hashtag Black Birders Week. And then I have a series of footnotes here. Footnotes were, maybe I'll skim through them just for the sake of time and pick out a couple. The black-polled warbler weighs less than half an ounce, yet makes the longest overwater journey of any songbird, flying nonstop for up to 3 days, covering on average 1,800 miles from the eastern seaboard over the Atlantic Ocean to reach their wintering grounds in the Caribbean and South America. I'm skipping down a few. Migratory species are sentinels of global change. The black-polled warbler may be acting as a canary in the coal mine, alerting to changes that could affect the integrity of the boreal system. Children often learn their surroundings by exploring, and young black-polled warblers may do the same thing. Researchers found that before young black-polled warblers headed south, they spent time exploring the neighborhood, perhaps to help them find a territory the following summer. Thanks for letting me share that, everybody. Thank you for the muted applause too. I appreciate that. Yeah, actually come off mute. I haven't heard anybody's voice today. You're welcome to come off mute. We're not in
Thank you.
Zoom mode.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
Wow.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. So what we're going to do, I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure. I imagine many of us have been in workshop spaces where you share a poem and then folks kind of say like, oh, that was good, or like, I liked it, or like, that was interesting, right? So all of these sort of terms that like without the context and without Raymond's coming in the crew. All right. All right, welcome from across the water, Raymond. And so oftentimes we get in these workshop spaces where unless we really trust the people we're in, hearing comments like that for me can be pretty triggering. Somebody's like, it was interesting. And I'm like, interesting, like what did, like, it was like a saltine, like, or like, did it have flavor? Are we talking like matzah? Was there some hummus on it? Or are we just talking like bland cracker? You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to introduce a tool that I found extremely helpful that Camille Dungy shared with my cohort at the Kabi Khanum retreat 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago. And it's literally titled 20 Questions for the Poetry Workshop. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And again, like I said, I do ask that if you're sharing it, definitely, please make sure that you're citing, Camille appropriately. And so what I love about this particular tool that she shared with us is that it's a different way, I think, to go about giving feedback in a workshop. You can see at the top where she is essentially saying, what are you noticing? I want to focus on these observations during our time together. What catches your eyes and ears and holds on to them? And so this guide, I think, is really incredible because sometimes we have to just respond right in the moment to comments. And I know it takes a while to digest things. And so I think it can be really useful to just kind of pick one of these numbers and then look at that particular question and look at the poem through that particular lens as it's being read. And so we can kind of like prime ourselves to be like, okay, number 11, what are the ways the author is using color, and sort of centering that, for example, in the feedback. So I wanted to offer that tool because we're going to use it when we're doing our free writes. But I also thought it's just a great tool to have going forward. I come back to it pretty often when I'm doing revisions and sort of just if it's not checking out on several of those, then it's like, all right, let's keep this poem developing. So what I want to do is practice using this tool real quick. So with the piece that I just read, the hashtag Black Poll Summer, instead of saying like what I liked about it or what didn't make sense or what I didn't like, what I want us to do is just to have a couple folks who want to volunteer to basically just pick one of the 20 questions from Camille Dungy's list. And then we can go through, yes, Black Nature anthology. I was not going to finish this without talking about that. Like I mean, I have literally said like this is the closest to a holy book that I have. It's Black Nature, 400 years of African American nature writing, basically. And so that book changed my life of realizing that I was situated in a broader tradition of Black eco-poetics. So thanks, Ricky, for putting that in the chat. The who do we cite again? Great question, Hillary. I think it should be at the title of the doc and as well in the top of the doc. That it's called 20 Questions for the Poetry Workshop by Camille Dungy. So I'll make sure. Oh, it's written in the footer too. Camille Dungy's 20 workshop questions. So yeah. Thank you. So if I could essentially have one or two folks who want to pick a number off of this so we know which number you're thinking, and then we can talk just briefly about where you saw that question or how that question applied to the poem that we just shared. So hopefully it's not too much multitasking to kind of have the Black Poll Summer poem up and then kind of the list of 20 questions. If it's useful, I think if I screen share both of those, it's going to make the text so small, but I'm happy to screen share one or the other if anybody's having a hard time or they're on a phone and can't pull up the screens. So anybody just feel free to come off mute and share the poem, Sheila. Put the poem on the screen. Okay, I didn't know if you meant share it like the link. All right, sure thing.
I think the question is number 6, but I caught my breath at the part where it says, my daddy always used to help me brush my teeth. I just kind of had this intake of breath. It really hit me unexpectedly hard.
Thank you, Hillary. Yeah, that line, I definitely cried when I wrote that line because I really wanted to have thinking of who is speaking the most for George Floyd and who rarely was able to speak. And that was actually from her testimony. And just thinking of like my kids are 7, and if they're testifying, like that's totally the type of thing they would say, like, no, I don't know about what he did for work. Like he brushed my teeth for the full 2 minutes. Like that's what they would say, right? So thank you. That was number 6 that Hillary just spoke of. And again, if you can just come off mute, because when I'm doing the screen share, I just can't see everybody quite as well.
This is from number 18.
Okay, great.
And Saleem, I've seen this in your work before. I love the way you use collage. I mean, this to give voice to all these different consciousnesses. The child that Hillary just mentioned, the birds, the dog, the nemesis, every consciousness, the bringing in of the lynching imagery. So it's like all these different things. It ends up being so powerful when you put it all together.
Carol, appreciate that. You want to do one more? Pick a question off of Camille Dungy's list. And here's the list just for reference. What about 5, actually? I'm curious. If 5 is what tense is the poet chosen? Why do you think? I'm actually kind of curious of that. Anybody who wants to, sorry, I know I just said somebody come up with a question and I totally jumped in, but I would be curious people's thoughts around that. What tense is the poet chosen? Why do you think? And you can just come off of mute.
I'm not a super grammar person. So for me, it just kind of felt like a tense that's eternal because like what you're talking about is like this cyclical thing that just happens within like the Black community. So that's more, I saw it like past is present is future type vibe.
I
So
love that. I love that. You said an eternal tense. I'm just trying to get a pen because I've got to write that down. I will cite you, don't worry. I'm not going to be like, I came up with eternal tense. That was all you. Write down the date. That was on 5/15 at 10:34 Central. Okay, so any other person before we go ahead and shift into some more discussion?
I was thinking, honestly, pretty much the same thing as well, Layla, especially, and this is kind of collapsing it into question 11, I guess, with the color, but no matter how lonely, there's always some Black beneath you. Like, I feel like that really chimed with how I was perceiving the way that time functioned in the piece and how like all of the boundaries around different, like, I guess like segments of time blur, like collapse into each other. And yeah, like I think like Ori was saying, the like cyclical nature of it all.
Awesome.
can I just say something really quickly too? The tense reminded me of like a Bakongo cosmogram, which is like African cosmology, and it's like going in a spiral. And as you keep going up, you're meeting at certain points with each spiral that goes up, but it feels different each time. And Ariana, what you just said just made me think of that.
Can you spell that in the chat?
Yeah, of course. I'll link it in everything.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I love time travel, so any resources to help me think differently. Okay, cool. Well, so this workshop is definitely not about like just workshopping one of my poems, but I was hoping that it could be a little more tangible of a concept. Can somebody remind me what is Sankofa mean? What do we say?
Go back and
Go back and get it. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Just making sure. All right. So what I want us to do now is before I write, like to think about ritual before getting into a writing space or a writing practice. You know, some folks, let me take our screen share so I can see folks. Okay, cool. I like to think about ritual and about before getting into a space. I'm not saying that it's going to be, you know, anywhere near as intense as C.A. Conrad's, you know, somatic poetry exercises, which are, you know, incredible. I'll actually let me drop the C.A. Conrad. I always try to keep one bookmarked. There we go. I'll drop one in the chat. So it's not going to be as hardcore as their particular somatic rituals, but I do think it's important to have a ritual to shift space, especially when something outside is pulling us away. So if it's okay, could we just do a brief breathing ritual just to get us in the space before you start writing? Okay. So basically, oh, thank you, Layla. All right. So what we're going to do is you don't have to hold your hand up. You can just have your hand wherever somewhere that's comfortable. But essentially, we're going to breathe. We're going to start on our pinky, and we're going to take a breath in, and a breath out. We'll go to our ring finger, a breath in, and a breath out. Go to our middle finger, breath in, and a breath out. Pointer finger, breath in, breath out. To our thumb, breath in, breath out. And close that whole hand. Put your other hand on top of it. Breath in, and a breath out. Okay. So thinking of Sankofa, we're going to have 3 rounds of free writes with all the birds that y'all looked at. hopefully folks got a chance to flip through. And thank you so much, Tanya. That was mad quick. That was like, I can't even see your thanks, Tanya. There is a link that magically appeared, the link to the birds, as it's now been dubbed. And on there, it was simply 50 birds that folks on the Audubon site were feeling. And so I had just encouraged folks ahead of time, if they're able, to think of 3 different birds that spoke to them. One that sort of captured some element of your past, of an experience, of an identity. Then their present, a bird that speaks to any element of your present. And then the third bird, something that speaks to one possible future, right? Because I think we got a lot of possible futures. And so that was kind of the invitation. It wasn't an assignment. It wasn't anything you had to do, right? But I feel like sometimes, especially if we're doing free verse, I like forms because they help. I can find a lot of freedom once I know the structure, sort of like once I know the rules of the game, then I can figure out how to push against them or remix them or whatever. So I'm thinking of this as just as a structure, not as boundaries limiting you, but as something to potentially give a little bit of a guide to then push against. So out of those birds, hopefully folks are able to find a few. If it's your first time looking at the bird doc for now, no problem. Just slide through and see if any of them jump out. But I want us to take our first 15-minute free write. I'm going to do it too. If you're able, if whichever way is the most, whichever way turns off your editor brain the most to write, then please do that way. So for me, if I'm typing, that's not going to work as well because that backspace key just like glows, and then when that one stops glowing, then the delete button glows. And then like when that's not glowing, then it's like, oh, what's happening on Instagram? All right. So for me, like I need to write, otherwise I will censor myself. But I want you to honestly do what's most comfortable because writing on a keyboard might be what's your zone. Okay. So for our first prompt, we are looking at the bird that represents one chapter of your past. And so what I would like you to do is just to either scroll to the picture of that bird, ideally, because then you could be in conversation with that bird, or just write down the name of the bird. But I do think it's nice if you can have the picture of that bird pulled up to kind of be in conversation with it. So I'll give folks a minute. I see some scrolling. I see like some bird reflections in people's glasses. So that's dope. So I'll give you another second to get your past bird, one chapter of your past. Okay. All right, I don't see as much scrolling, so I'm going to read that cue as we're feeling pretty good. Okay. And so as you're thinking about this bird, I'm not going to put a timer on the screen because like countdown stress me out. And I'm also going to put myself on mute because I write with music and I don't want to assume that that is the same for other people. I always turn off my camera in a free write, and it sounds silly, but it's mostly because when I write, I don't know if anybody listens to Keith Jarrett. Like when Keith plays piano, he does like, ooh, ah, like he does stuff like that. And like, I kind of do that when I'm writing a fill line. I'll be like, woo, and like, that's going to be super distracting if you're in the middle of like writing about something. So I'm going to mute myself. I'll have my camera up in a little corner in the chat. So please still chat me or chat Tanya or somebody to if you have anything that comes up, but I will have my camera off, but still be present. All right. So our first 15 minutes is we're thinking about, oh, it's a good point, Jason. Not all the birds are loading. Is it the PDF that we're pulling up? Sorry, I'm pulling it up now too, just to see. Where are they stopping loading for you?
18.
Jason, what helped me is I downloaded it onto my computer and then they were
I'm
all
sorry,
there.
I should have recommended that.
Yeah,
because it's going to buffer with like 50 images. Yeah. So download it. Thank you. Yes, thank you. That problem solving in the moment. So you're going to have your bird up. You don't throw out time. I'll give a heads up as we're moving forward at a couple intervals. And if you get stuck or when you get stuck or when you doubt yourself, just please, literally, I'm not joking, like just write that last line over and over and over until it opens up something else. So really, this is just a time to be in conversation with this bird about that particular chapter of your past. Okay. If anybody has any questions, let me know. If not, I'm gonna get us popping. Good, I'm seeing some cameras going off, so I'm assuming you're either getting some Pop-Tarts or you're writing. Pop-Tarts. Okay, let's go ahead and start, and I will stay in touch, but my camera will be off. All right, have fun, everybody. We are halfway into our time. Keep it moving. Let's take another 3 minutes, then I'll let you know when to wrap up. All right, let's wrap up that particular line, phrase, image, rhyme, word, and pop back on when you can. Okay, so hopefully that last 15 minutes was generative. Yes, I agree, Kay. Thanks for stumbling in, and let's all keep stumbling through, because this is part of free writing, is letting go where it goes. So just to reground us, we have been talking about Sankofa, which means, anybody holler it, unpause it, shout it, chat it,
Go back and get it.
to go back and get it.
Get it.
Get it. You can get it. You can get it. I'm actually going to say to go back and get it. Okay. So we've officially modified it, cripping that language in real time. Thank you. All right. So we have been talking about going back and getting it, and we've been looking at our 50 birds in a PDF. And it works best if you download the PDF, because the images are slow to load past like the 18th page. What I would love is if folks could drop in the chat just the number of the bird that they were on. Like, there's a page number for each corner. So instead of typing like the whole name of your bird, if you could just drop in the number, I would love to collect our numbers and then see what the birds were that we sort of associated with that past, with a particular past chapter. Oh, wow, this range, I love it. Selfishly, I want to see if anybody picked mine. Okay. 49, oh, 2 for Hillary, doubling up, okay. All right. Cool. It's a nice range. Well played. Okay, awesome. Yes, I love this. Can we make, well, I can save the chat, but in case I forget, Tanya, will you save the chat in case I forget at the end? Because I might just be too hype because like birds and poets just get me like that. Oh, okay, Pinka, love it, love it. Okay, this is exciting. All right, so for our second round of free writing, what we're going to do is we still got our list of our 50 birds, and we are going to think about one element of our present and a particular bird that speaks to any element of your present. It could be an element of you as an individual, it could be an element of what is happening in a particular reality around you. That bird, I mean, sorry, that element of your present does not have to literally be a physical body. It could be an aspect of what you find yourself thinking about, daydreaming about, but any aspect of your present. And we're looking for one of the birds on that 50. Or if there's another bird in your room, I like how Pinka busted out a painting. If you have a bird tattoo, whatever. But we'll do the same thing. We'll take a nice little 15-minute jaunt. One thing that I will give as an offering, not as a challenge, not as an assignment, but one thing I'll give as an offering is the 20 questions. I'm going to drop this in for folks who just joined. We've been looking at this amazing doc by Camille Dungy, just titled 20 Questions for the Poetry Workshop. And so what I will invite you to do as what I will invite you to do as you're doing this current round is to pick one of the 1 through 20 and just have it floating and simmering in your head. If it's color and that's number 11, have that simmering in your head. If it's 17, describing the body, have that simmer. So it's just an opportunity and invitation. If you like to spin, oh, thanks, Elizabeth. If you'd like to spin a particular one. Oh, I'll holler at you too, Elizabeth. I'm gonna be coming through Asheville in July. Okay. I mean, no, I didn't have to. Okay, cool. All right. I should have asked if you'd like to holler. I just can't be like, I'm gonna holler at you. All right. So I'm looking forward to connecting. All right. So let's get ready to go into our second round. We'll do 15 minutes, a bird that's representing some aspect of your present. And the invitation is to look through the lens of one of Camille Dungy's 20 questions. All right. As usual, you can do camera off to get in your zone and mute mic. Talk to y'all soon. We've got 5 minutes. I'll let you know when we're about a minute out. Got about 1 more minute in this round. right, let's take the opportunity to wrap up the last line, metaphor, stanza, image, thought, feeling. Then come on back when you can. All right, looks like we're easing back in. Okay, so what we'll do is instead of us doing the third round, which is the round about finding a bird that speaks to one possible future, I will invite folks to do that one on their own. And we have something called the Second Sunday Salon, where fellows gather on the second Sunday in the evening for about an hour. I think we're maybe going to make them be an hour and a half, possibly, because we've got more fellows, which is exciting. And I thought it could be one of the things that we decided to share. So to just hold on to that. So yeah, so that's one motivation, hopefully, to keep doing it. And when I mean share, I don't mean necessarily, again, that you have to write what you did in the free write, but it's been awesome to see the numbers. So if right now everyone, you can drop in the chat the number of the bird they just used in that last round. It's been so cool to see the range. Okay. Oh, nice, Carol. God, I love this range. Amazing how many people don't repeat the birds over the course of 50 birds. It's kind of cool. I thought there'd be a lot more overlap. That's exciting. Yes, make up a bird if you do not. I love that, Leslie. And I also hope that you literally made up a bird, like that, like a bird that is now existing because you made it up. That's super exciting. Thank you, Leslie. I'm so excited to know a little bit more. Okay. I misread that, Connie. I read Green Lantern because I don't know, that's just what I thought of. And I was going to be like, please tell me there's a bird called a Green Lantern. What we're going to do is for the third one, like I said, I'll invite you to do that another time, and hopefully you will, because I do think it's a pretty it can be a pretty fun exercise. But what I wanted to do is give us a little bit of time to chat, and then also a little bit of time to say some see you soons. So what I would love to do for this conversation, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, Sankofa means what? What did it mean? What Sankofa meant?
Go back and get it. Get it,
Yes,
girl.
you get it. All caps, GIT. All right. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. Oh, yes, Leslie, welcome officially. And Leslie coming in with the homework. All right, the official. So, oh my gosh, it's officially a party. I see Lamar Wilson has joined, so it's officially a party, y'all. For the last half hour of the party, what I wanted to do was have a little bit of a conversation. Now that we've been talking about Sankofa, and now that we've been reading and reflecting on Sankofa, I'm curious about this idea. I'm going to drop a quote in the chat, and the quote says, "It is not wrong to go back for that which you have forgotten." So it's an Akan proverb. And I'm really curious just to have a little open conversation to see if you think, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to turn myself off. Sorry, has my camera been off that whole time that I was talking? If so, I apologize. Okay. I want to take a little bit of time. I'm really curious now that we've talked about Sankofa to sort of get a sense of if you think there is something that our particular perspective can offer to that. Perhaps what is disability? I guess another way to say is, what does disability, and I'll put this in the chat, what does disability allow us to experience? Perhaps that folks who do not identify as disabled, the ableds or whatever you want to say, perhaps that they may have forgotten. So I'm going to put it in the chat. What does disability allow us to experience? Perhaps. Okay, has forgotten. And let's just have some open conversation. And I can summarize some of the things in the chat, but you're also totally able to come off mute. You're more than welcome to do that. Yes, Carl, if you're in the mood to talk, I would love to hear that particular concept, because that's a lot of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I can or try and elaborate on that, I should say. I think for some reason that proverb, it just brought immediately to mind just crip time and the way that disabled people and maybe especially disabled poets, I don't know, the way that we can be very adept at navigating non-linearness, both in just the way that my memory works, like nothing is in order and it's incredibly non-linear, and even in terms of time zone differences too, the kind of non-linearness of that too. And I don't know for some reason that proverb just really reminded me of non-linearness and how that concept of crip time emerges in the work, the things that we may forget or the things that are forgotten about us, and how that concept of time emerges in the work. For some reason, all of the proverb set all of that off in my head for some reason.
Awesome. Thank you so much. A couple of the comments that have been coming in earlier, I remember Layla had some conversation about creative approaches to care. If that's anything you care to elaborate on, more than welcome. The comment said, I'm scrolling, creative approaches to care and organizing within movements that are often forgotten about.
Yeah, I don't mind elaborating, but I also liked the speaking about crip time, but also just like what Kay just said in the chat of like, what is space and time even? And like, speaking specifically to like the Black experience and like settler colonialism and being stolen over here, like our whole conception of time and space has been taken from us, just as like African people and people throughout the diaspora too. And so to be disabled also is like bending that time, because we do live in like an alternate time as well. And so in some ways I do think it can help challenge like our fellow, for me, organizers to embody that more, and like what can we pull from the past and bring it forward without it being because sometimes I think it's naive to bring everything from the past forward.
No,
So
I
how do
appreciate
we
that.
build upon that and expand? And I think a lot of disability poetics is really like pushing that boundary to create something entirely new and beyond like worlds, but also words, language and culture and all of that. So I'm gonna stop rambling, but yeah.
I appreciate the ramble. That's where I said that poem that I read was in the ramble in Central Park. So yeah, nice tie back.
Hey, Saleem.
Yes.
May I chime in?
I would love that.
I think in connection very differently. I realize as a disabled person and my disabled colleagues, even in my workshop, I'm citing a lot of context warning for grief, right? Like dead disabled people. And there's obviously overlap with Black, Indigenous people specifically and what that means and embodies, and people also in like brown migrant diaspora. So I think something, I don't know, that I feel my friends and I do is we're always in conversation with ghosts. We're always in conversation with like, who came before us, who's after us, our ancestors who are younger than us. You know, I think that's something that's a very disabled thing. And then furthermore, for me as a brown child of migrants in an undocumented home, like that's a constant conversation. And I feel that ableds forget that sometimes that spirit can occur, and white ableds, and sometimes even white disabled people, you know, may not have that same interconnectedness, not just with the earth, but also with, you know, who may or may not guide us or chat with us that aren't in like our human living skin places.
Thank you. I see a lot of the head nods during that particular reflection. I actually got like a cramp because I was like, yes. So it was like the car seat cramp. Thank you. Let's take any. Yeah, thank you, Kamisha.
Kamisha.
Thank
I don't
you.
know, I'm just in listening to what Walela and Kay had to say, and also a bit earlier in another session. No, I keep coming back to remembering something that was shared during those Crip Camp sessions that I was talking about in another session. Anyway, you know, disability, my experience of understanding disability among the Black people around me, it's been interesting to feel like it's just so invisible. Like there are a lot of Black folk that I know that I am in relationship with that don't think of themselves as disabled. And the thing that was said at Crip Camp, we were just talking about history and how, you know, when Black folks were enslaved, you know, disability was basically weaponized, you know, that it was a way to literally lower the value of someone who had tried to escape or been unruly. And so I just think about how that translates over time in this, having that experience of literally losing value as a piece of property because of disability, and what that means in the present. You know, all of those generations and the way that white supremacy tells us to forget the harms that have happened. Like, yeah, I just sit with that. I keep coming back to it's like that just makes so much sense why it looks the way it looks.
Thank you so much.
Is it okay if I say, I'm Kamisha, oh my God, thank you. Because that is just so necessary to say, because I really do believe like within our community, within the Black community, because we were brought here as labor, it's almost like, who are we without our labor? And we all experience that, right? That internalized ableism. But specifically within the Black community, it's like, who are you if you can't provide for your family, if you can't do this, if you can't do that? And so disability is almost considered a slur. And I just remember when Chadwick Boseman died, we saw that so much where like, if you said that on Twitter, you got like jumped on Twitter. And it was just so weird for me to experience, because I was just like, it's just a word. So I just wanted to say thank you, Kamisha, because like there is this almost acceptance and non-acceptance in both sides of the community. And that in itself creates kind of like this purgatory time of just like, where am I? Where do I belong?
Yeah, Heidi, that's something that, yeah, okay, yeah. Word. The chat is just, yeah, I should just screen share the chat. Well, y'all can chat. I don't have to screen share it. It's I'm loving this. But again, I just want to make sure, because I don't want to assume that everybody can read the chat. Some of the comments that have come up recently. I'm trying to scroll back. Recently, okay, yeah. So there had been a comment about Jason was just mentioning not said, I don't think I've had much interconnection with other disabled people for most of my life, other than when I was in the hospital. And then when I did, I shied away from it. But Zoeglossia, as well as first seeing Crip Camp, has helped me understand more and feel a part of it. I'm glad to hear that, Jason. I'm glad that this space could be that for so many people. I haven't gotten to link with this many fellow kin and I don't know, I mean, ever, you know, like it's different. It's different. I mean, Kawi Kanam is a particular space that I feel, you know, this kinship, but it is also different. There is still a lot of that ableism in full view. As I start to gear up for that retreat in 2 weeks, I'm already thinking like, okay, what do I need to pack so that I can make it till 6 p.m. and what does it mean to generate a brand new poem by 10 a.m. every day? Like, what do I need to prepare myself for? You know what I mean? And then some of the other comments that had come up recently was a conversation about drapetomania, which was essentially the pathologization of the Black desire for freedom. So when folks were liberating themselves, it was termed the runaway slave disease. Drapetomania is kind of commonly what it was referred to. Okay, yeah, there's so many things, I just don't want to assume that everybody can necessarily see them. Ricky just had a comment, thank you all for the insight. In my life, accepting disability has often been framed as giving up. Oh, I feel that. And amongst y'all, I appreciate it more as an embrace of self-understanding. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, really love that. This is exciting because I feel like I've been thinking about this concept so much, and you know, I feel like birds are often made fun of in the poetry world because it's like, oh, a bird poem, you know, and like there's a moment where I was even like, people are gonna totally see if I put a list of 50 birds in here and they're gonna be like, we're about to write a bird poem, you know. And so I appreciate y'all just you know, kind of rolling with it and kind of expanding. Yeah, for the birds. Thank you. I also love the fact that people, all right, exactly. Thank you. I also appreciate that people were just seem pretty open and willing to fly, you know, forward and backwards together. I did want to save some space as we kind of wind down the closing portion. And it was an honor to get to be part of this final day. Even if I had gotten to Louisville on time, it turns out when we got there, the room wasn't ready. So I had my whole plan of like getting to the Wi-Fi, and they were like, we're understaffed and every hotel is full because of the graduation. So like we couldn't even get in our room for like over an hour. So I appreciate everybody being flexible and letting this happen today. Yeah, so I guess I'll be in Pittsburgh for CaviCon. Yeah, so I would love to hear from folks kind of where you're at. You know, I know when we have intense discussions, for me, I always have a very hard time pivoting. It's like when I finish a therapy session, like I love to have therapy, so I'm not complaining, but they're timed when they end, it ends like 10 minutes before I have to get my kids from the bus. It's like I literally am like, okay. Small talk with the parents at the bus stop. Oh, really? Yeah, no, I didn't catch that rerun. Oh, for real? Yeah, I've never heard of that show. And then I just like, oh man, at least I got my hour, you know. So I want to be mindful that kind of pivoting is something that it takes a little bit of energy to do. So I just want to open the floor as we kind of start to wrap up and see anybody's reflections, anything. I don't have an agenda for this last little bit of time that we have together.
Hey, Saleem, I just want to mention two great comments that were in the chat that I wanted to kind of highlight. Leslie said something lovely. I don't know if he wants to speak up and say it, but it was, how do we continue to hold ourselves accountable to the incredible intersectionality of this space? I feel like that's a really good thing for us to think about. And I love what Victoria wrote. She wrote, in my experience, speaking of that giving up, which has happened to me a lot, that idea that when you admit you're disabled was a big pressure in my life, you were kind of giving up, or, you know, like it was like letting your muscles go or something, you know, or anyway, she wrote, in my experience, having an invisible disability, I was renamed lazy or hypochondriac by family. My therapy sessions belittled, etc. work is paramount, production is paramount to them. And I feel like that's a big thing in our ableist society, is this sort of very manic or maniac definition of production. And I believe in production in some ways. You know, I love poetry or work, but I'm really trying to navigate my relationship with that. Like what about when we're not productive, or we need more time to be productive, or we need to take a breather from being productive. And that's something that feels important anyhow to me. Thanks.
This is Victoria. Sorry, I'm really like not camera ready, but you know, folding laundry and such. But question for everyone is like the job hunt thing. You know, like yeah, I'm editor of a magazine, and that I can do that at home, but I'm not going to get rich on this. You know, like how do we navigate the job market, job interviews, while also honoring our bodies as being disabled, visibly disabled, or not visibly? Like, does anybody have pointers, things that might have worked? Like, I'm super curious how people are navigating job market stuff.
I work at a hospital, so I think I'm kind of lucky in that way because they let me off for doctor appointments and I get insurance, but I hate the work. Not to complain, but it's just sitting there in an office chair 8 hours a day, being on the computer. Like, it's not fun like this.
Yeah, to chime in, I feel like pre-COVID, my career and my book were going in a very particular place. And so I was very excited. And I think there's something about COVID had a lot of relief grants in the United States for certain people, if you knew how to navigate that language. That first year, I lost 75% of my tour. So that was like 12 out of 15 places. If you understand that, it's more than half of my income. And currently now, I'm getting a lot of requests because people want to discuss disability. I am mid-career. I'm very privileged. I'm light skinned. I'm trans, but not scary trans for people. I'm a cane user. I know I use big words. Just in spring, like my hard data numbers is I've received 14 gig requests and only 12 could accommodate. Everyone still wanted to be in person. And I think it also ranges on how they see access, right? It's still on the individual person. So I'm going to say this, even if your resume reads as successful and you can assimilate in certain ways, or you navigate your privilege in certain ways, at least for me as a writer and as a person who does social justice work, I feel like people are still not aware of. We're still very much in COVID. And even then inviting me, they don't even have basic access information about masks or vaccines, just those tokenized pieces of like, we kind of care about disabled people or sick people. So I think I'm very wary. I'm very wary. It's what it creates for me, I think, for writers and artists. I hear friends who are painters who are facing the same thing, friends who are dancers, who are all disabled, and Black, Indigenous, people of color, in that vast spectrum of difference, that negotiating our access needs is like even harder now. So you're either getting somebody who's very hyper compassionate due to the adjacence of COVID impacting their life, having COVID, or somebody unfortunately dying of complications, or somebody who's just like, yeah, okay, we go to New Jersey Pride in Asbury Park with 4,000 people and perform for nothing, and we have no idea that there's COVID. So you have to laugh. If you don't laugh now, what is there now? That's all. I just feel like people are like, how are you doing? Me. Empty pockets, friends. I'm very blessed. I received a grant, but without that grant, yeah, comedy.
Feel you.
I would just like also want to chime in with Kay, because also that was how I used to make my money. Pre-COVID, I had just started returning to doing college workshops and whatnot. And then with COVID, you just immediately, I just was like, okay, Patreon, I guess. Okay, I guess. And then it became like my whole life wound up being online. And it's like this almost bartering of like my privacy, my safety, my just life as currency in itself. And I think that is like the really, excuse me, but like shitty thing right now about just social media in general. It's like really invasive. And also I feel like I often am like trading in my identities literally just to pay my bills. And the bills are barely getting paid. And it's just like, I don't know how we can push past that when that is like, those are the people that got the checks. Like, I definitely like alongside Kay, like I really push when like I'm talking with folks, but even for instance, I'm just gonna give a quick example. I'm signed with Wilhelmina. Wilhelmina is a modeling agency, and as part of like a way to get money, they were like, do you wanna just get eye surgery? And it made no sense to me because I was like, what does that have to do with modeling? And it was just, and it's things like that where it's just like, and I was really sitting up here like, I might because I need a band or two, like, and that's a really fucked up position to be in, and that we're forced into, especially with the internet and TikTok. That's a whole separate thing. Let me just stop now, but yeah.
One thing that's coming up for me, doesn't solve any of the shittiness, is, you know, just the need. Like, I think that the pandemic has moved some people, provided a move toward greater access. But I think that access is being defined based on, you know, a certain set of accommodations, and mostly there by request. Not like this is a baseline of things that we will always provide because we want to make sure everybody can participate to their fullest ability. But even if they get to that point, I think there is a point even further than that we are really trying to get to, because it isn't just about accommodations, it's about culture. It's about what kind of culture do you have, and is it welcoming? Is it thinking about all the bodies in this space? And it isn't just for people who identify as disabled. When you open up that stuff, it helps everybody get free around, you know, all these toxic things that our culture is demanding of us for productivity wise. Like, it is so needed, and I am so frustrated because I don't know how to get us there. It's like a massive move of consciousness.
I couldn't agree more, Kamisha. I think about that a lot, the way so many people are pushed to the max in this country by poverty, by race. And this crazy idea when people talk about poverty, like that usually means people are working 2 very hard, very demanding jobs, or 3, and they're trying to juggle their kids and they're trying to do this. I mean, I think that if there's one thing I've been sort of convinced of lately, it's that one of the things that disability poetics and disability culture is kind of a movement of liberation that goes beyond disabled bodies to include the able-bodied world, which has somehow kind of manically eaten the drunk, rather, a sort of psycho-capitalist Kool-Aid that is really making an awful lot of people and communities live on the edge in a way of what they can bear. And I don't have an answer either, and I'm frustrated by it. I don't know the answer, but I'm really happy you said that.
Like, I want to chime in for 2 seconds. I don't know if I'm anywhere near the topic, but like speaking on COVID and pre-COVID ideas of disability and kind of how COVID brought up these things for me. I remember hearing a lot, especially from my family during COVID, because they're deeply ableist people, was this, I wish I could stay home and still get money from it. Because I'm on disability. And then when COVID hit, people were like, oh my God, we have to stay home. And I was like, geez, you were telling me before that you wished you could stay home. And now you really hate it. Now you know what it's like. And you, Jesus Christ. Then like, I am kind of between introverted and extroverted. So like this staying home all the time thing doesn't suit me too well. And I remember during the pandemic talking to my dad once and him saying, at least you're used to it. And I was like, what? That doesn't make me less lonely. It just means I've been lonely for 15 years. You know, and all this like assumption, all the weird able-bodied assumptions that came out during COVID, just kind of, they hit so hard. And it's, and we know that COVID, because we're learning about what happens with long COVID, is gonna bring a lot more people into disability. And I don't know if they're gonna learn actually what, you know, to become, what are the words I'm looking for? More accepting of disability, but they're gonna learn what it's like to be disabled. Those are words.
Thanks, Hillary. They're definitely resonating in the chat, clearly. Even if you can't hear the nods on the mute, I saw a lot of support, felt it. One thing that a fellow who wasn't able to come to this year's retreat had pinged me last Sunday, just seeing if they could chime in about potential discussion topics for upcoming second Sunday salons. And they were really interested in like having a piece of a conversation where we sort of like talk through where we sort of like people get I don't want to say a case study, that's not how they described it, but sort of like, well, their tangible example is they are trying to explain to this person who has the temporary, you know, accessible parking thing on his car, but he doesn't actually need it, but he just uses it and like parks in the spot out front of his apartment every day. And he's like, just like the amount of the amount of space it takes in his head to think about this neighbor who does that every day, and like how we were just sort of talking about like that internal buildup, and just realizing that like that's actually taking a big piece of his energy every day to just look out in the parking lot, see this dude's car who doesn't need the sticker but has it. And so he was like, I wonder if there'd be some way to have a conversation around sort of like, he's realizing that some of this is his own like internalized ableism, and not knowing sort of like how to sort of confront this person. And anyway, it brought up a bigger conversation of just like, could a portion of these second Sunday salons be used as kind of like some sort of in the moment, real time, you know, resource sharing or sort of problem solving, you know. So just interested to see if that's something that's interesting, because the nice thing about these salons is they're really very open as far as what we do. We've only been having them for a few months, and so there's not like there's some, you know, super huge format. It really is a space for fellows to be together. Sometimes fellows have asked to lead a conversation, sometimes I've led a conversation. So I'm just putting that out there that this could be one area to continue some of these, because it definitely would be like super insensitive to be like, cool, so let's wrap up, because like we're in the middle of some like really important conversations, both verbally and in the chat. So but I do want to let folks know that we do have kind of like some standing spaces, or not standing spaces, some specific reserved, calendar blocks, each month where we can get together and keep having these conversations. So just wanted to put a plug out, and we can email to everybody later, as far as like the calendar invites, because it's literally just like a standing, invite with a link and ASL, and yeah. So we have a structure for this continuing conversation.
And I also wanted to chime in that I really heard what people said about some professional development conversations. And one thing I've been really thinking about is I do think we have some power as a collective to support each other, to help each other. And I also think to educate, at least the way the Poetry Coalition to some degree has, some sectors of the poetry landscape to really understand more about us and where we're coming from. And I was thinking, inviting different people to come speak with us, that like, because when and I also wanted to say, I really have a lot of feelings that it's very important, because if I'm really honest about my history with disability, and when I have, sort of done okay in jobs, I've been really lucky in some ways, but I think there have been points when my disabilities are asking for accommodations or being kind of just odd looking and a weird presence to people has been a problem. And, so I kind of feel like using our collective strength and mutual support to sort of work some of that we could be a force for at least a small way, providing the education about this, I think, or examples, maybe, examples of what people in the literary art poetry world specifically can be thinking about. And I hope we can do that. Thanks.
Jonathan, are you okay if I read yours out loud for folks? Well, I guess it's in the chat, so I guess that's technically okay. I'll just read it out loud. Awesome. Thanks, DJ. I'll holler soon. But I do want to respect folks' time. So if it's okay, I'll read this one and then we can kind of wrap up a little bit. Jonathan just said, because time is short and I'm grateful and overwhelmed, I just want to say, since I'm something of a hermit, I'm grateful to hear from anyone for any reason. If it's one, random note, Facebook friend request, are so welcome. 2, hey Jonathan, read this and smarten up. How I'd be smart enough without your help. 3, if you have advice on what to read, especially texts made of smaller ones, do tell me, since I talk about Stein all the time and I've been so glad for your reading advice. I want to say, if you're ever curious about less known Stein works, the most joyous I found recently is a book concluding with a wife has a cow, a love story. Thank you all so much. I'm here as needed. And yes, you have a welcome and a dentist in Jalisco with Jonathan. I love it. And then other folks are just dropping in contact information. We can just send out. I already have back from the performance. Who's that? I don't know who's at my door. I already have we already have a survey queued up that we've sent out to last year's fellows, asking for their updated social media and contact info. So we'll just send the same one out. So I don't want anyone to feel like they have to grab it out of the chat. We'll just send that out, and it's just for whoever wants to share their contact info can stay linked up. Alrighty, I think this is see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a part of the show. I'm so excited to keep building with you in the years to come.
Maybe everyone unmute and just yell or stretch for a minute. It's been lovely being in this space with y'all.
I love you all.
Oh,
Love you back.
I
Thank
love
you,
too.
everybody. See you.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
love.
Pinka.
for talking to me.
So great to see you all.
I love you, and everyone near me, come be my friend. I'm so lonely.
We will.
I know I sound pathetic, but I
No,
No,
That's honesty. That's honesty. Not pathetic.
we have
it's
to
been
take
a
an
pretty Yeah, it's been pretty lonely couple of years, I have to say. For many of us, nobody's been like, yay.
Sheila, we're having lunch this week without
I-
fail.
Yes, we are. I would dying to see you. Yay! Yay! We're both the San
Also,
Antonio contingent here.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be so great.
I'm ready.
Inko, were you saying something?
Yeah, is it possible that if we can create like a WhatsApp group or some sort of group
Yeah.
of all of us?
Yes, we will be having the salons every once a month,
Okay.
and that will keep the group going. And then every year we
Okay.
have the retreat. And Pinka, I owe you the hugest apology. I was so distracted by the Zoom thing, the bombing guy, that I can't believe I skipped you for a moment. I felt so bad.
No, please, no.
And you were so wonderful, and you brought the reading home so beautifully, and you were so gracious about it.
you.
Just wanted to say
Thank
that.
you.
It was really
Thank
wonderful
you.
poem. Thank you.
Thank you. No, don't worry about it. It's fine. It happens.
But we'll be in touch about the follow-ups. And I know everyone has a
Mhm.
busy life, so I just wanted to say, you know,
Yeah.
we'll be doing the second Sunday salons, but we want to keep those. And Saleem is our big guru of that, but pretty relaxed.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is one more thing I have to do every month. It's really, you know, you
Yeah.
as a fellow, you're coming to the retreats, you're part of Zoeglossia, but we don't want it to feel like a, you know, like an imposed, you know, you're all busy writers, you're all doing a lot in your lives, but you know, we want it to feel like a fun support thing. So don't ever feel like if I join this month that I can't join that month, or I don't join for 3 months and then I join. That is fine. You know, that's how we've sort of held our community together over the years, is kind of being a little bit flex, as they say. So thank you guys. Saleem, you want to kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. I also want to thank the folks behind the scenes. I want to thank Tanya. I know how hard she's worked pulling this conference off so much in the last month in particular. So I want to give lots of shout outs. I don't know if she looks as well put together as she does in her place hurler image, or she might be on the ground with Ben and Jerry's on her, like weeping. I'm not sure, but if so, we see you either way. Definitely want to thank Robbie from behind the scenes as well, stepping in this final week to help. Thank you so much to our captions. Even though our ASL is not here currently, they were at the beginning to make sure our access needs were covered. Matt, we appreciate you. Hopefully you're not going to have dreams for like weeks about lobbies and like spinning wheels and meeting tickets. But if so, we apologize and we thank you again for your patience. And
There's the wizard right there.
and then obviously want to thank two of our co-founders, Connie and Sheila, for having the shared vision for creating this space for us. And I'm excited for the retreats to come, and glad everybody's hopefully going to keep hanging in there and making this community a force. You're on mute, Sheila.
Say, we will be a force.
We are. All right, I'm with you, Heidi. I have to head out for real. I don't know who's buzzing my door, so I need to go check that out in case it's
Okay.
a child.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Thanks, y'all.
much.
Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.